We had the company Intel for our semiconductor case study, made by me, Adrian, Corey, Joshua, and TJ. A little bit about me. Pieces to make, and I really enjoy welding and soldering. And the carburetors, I've always just been around carburetors, so I really like how they function and how they work.
All right, I'm Joshua Taylor. This is my second to last semester, or it should be at least. I should have all my stuff lined up for that. My major is computer science. I'm planning to afterwards go further into cybersecurity. For me, the things I'm passionate about is I like model building, like a lot of video games, as my picture shows. Taking care of my cats. Hobbs is a very good friend of mine. He's currently sitting on the couch right over there, actually. But yeah, my major is going to be cybersecurity, but not until I'm done with, not until I'm done with what I've got over at CGCC until I transfer to ASU.
Yeah, so my name is TJ. I'm as well a first semester student at Chandler Gilbert. I'm planning on going through with a mechanical engineering degree once I transfer over to ASU. I've kind of sort of found my passion through, cars and building between at home and stuff. I have, whether it's like Legos or model cars or things like that. And also at work, build a lot of barbecues for customers, and I found the enjoyment behind that and seeing how things kind of come together. So I'm hoping going down this engineering route, similar to what my dad did, it kind of will bring something that I'll really seem to like.
My name's Corey. It's also my first semester, and I'm also majoring in mechanical engineering. And probably gonna transfer to ASU as well. My passion, I like fitness. It doesn't really have to do anything with engineering, but it's just something about me. And then I did a little bit of welding in high school, super fun. I actually liked it a lot. And I don't know, I feel like I always like learning how things kind of work and come together. I like building stuff as well. Like, yeah, I feel like I've always like learning all that stuff. All right, so what is Intel? Intel was founded on July 18th, 1968 by Gordon Moore and Robert Noyce, who were semiconductor pioneers. Along with them was Arthur Rock, who was an investor who was associated with the executive leadership and vision of Andrew Grove. Intel then created the world's first microprocessor chip, the Intel 4004, in 1971, but then became fully successful when they made their first PC, like that was created in the early 90s. A little bit about Intel's history. They're a California-based company. It was has historically kept what edge it had through producing some of the best CPUs and microprocessors of each tech generation. The meteoric rise to 509 billion USD and crash of 2000 can be attributed to the dot-com bubble. A global force, Intel is in the top 200 most valuable companies by market cap, ranking them at 174th. Earned $53.1 billion in revenue just last year, 2024. Their customers are from all over the world, but majority of them is from China, which they're 30%. The US makes up 25%, Singapore is 20%, and Taiwan is 15. And then the rest of the world accounts for like the last 10%. ODMs, also known as original design manufacturer, are one of the biggest customers with data centers and a close behind. Intel's purpose, ever since Intel's creation, their purpose was to create world-changing technology, that would improve the life of everyone. Intel's inventions did just that. Ever since the creation of the first microprocessor, their technology only became more and more advanced. Intel offers a wide range of products that includes processors, GPUs, networks, software, and also like developer tools and even their own computers. Um, a lot of people have their computers, and like it really changed the world ever since they made that first microprocessor. Um,
Uh,
who is this?
it's me.
Hi.
Uh, uh, so a little bit about Intel's strengths. They've always been, and they always will be, semiconductors. A company that manufactures them, and there will always be their computer their computer brand as well, and uh microprocessors for those computers and the PCs that they make. Uh, their microprocessors, they're the main strength. They're very, very good. Um, Another thing is that they use Intel's use of the 4004 microprocessor in 1971 really cemented their position as the number one in that field at the time. No other companies, there were a few, but no other companies were close to Intel whatsoever. Um, they made these about 54 years ago. This was back in the 4-bit era of microprocessors. It had a max clock speed of 740 kilohertz and held 2,300 transistors. For modern context, these any modern Intel CPU probably has upwards of 3 gigahertz and like billions of transistors. So when it comes to semiconductors, Intel's primary purpose of them is to manufacture them. Uh, their main market that they target is going to be your everyday consumer, businesses, and the people who work for them, and gamers. Uh, Back in 2016, Intel had invested 200 billion just in the US, with 16.5 billion being spent on research and development just last year. 34 billion being invested in Arizona, 64 billion in Oregon, 17 billion in New Mexico, and not on here, but in Ohio, I believe they're going to invest 10 billion, I want to say. A couple of processors they make as of now, is the Intel Core, the Core Ultra, the Intel Xenon, and the Intel Atom. Um, they're a current market leader, but Intel was once, like I said, really huge and a really really prominent in the market, and they're even once considered a monopoly at the time.
Okay, several careers that several careers are current and present because Intel, even if they're not what they used to be, are still one of the like largest semiconductor companies out there. Um, they have a large base of that that's going to be coming into Arizona. Relatively, they've been showing a lot more interest. They've been in the state for over 40 years, but as of the last like 5-ish years, they've really ramped up their semiconductor production in the state. As of 2020, they had a 1.3 million square foot semiconductor plant in Chandler, and as of I believe a couple months ago, they contracted to have another 2 of them built on the site. So Arizona is definitely a place where they're going to continue to be a major force. A couple examples of jobs in that field is we have the silicon hardware engineer, which are the people who design their microchips, build them, test them, see what they can and can't do, see what they could potentially do. You have semiconductor researchers, which is a more general, broad one, but the most like the big purpose of it is just like essentially the layer before silicon hardware engineer, where they're testing things that might go into hardware, where they're just saying, hey, what could we theoretically do? Let's go see what that is. What can this be? Semiconductors. And then we have software engineering, which is the people who actually design Intel's like onboard software. So the people who actually put things on a lot of those semiconductors, microchips, microprocessors. So there's a lot, obviously, when it comes into a 1.3 million square foot, 5-story semiconductor plant. Right, and in the news, as of actually, I believe it was 2, 3 weeks ago, the U.S. government said they were going to be taking a 10% stake in Intel, with the total investment for that being $8.9 billion. Main reason is because they wanted to boost domestic chip production because semiconductors kind of make the world go round right now. And what with China trying to be the biggest one in the world, America obviously wanted to take a stance against that. Beijing themselves, like the city of Beijing, invested 4.6 billion USD towards a fabrication facility in direct response to the US with their recent tariffs on semiconductor technology. The bump is going to help Intel, but they're still on the decline just because of Taiwan being as dominant as they are in the industry.
So basically, just adding on to sort of that last comment is that the US government took a 10% stake out of the company just to create a cash boost for them, pretty much, so they can expand further in the US territory, while also the government is trying to get the head CEO of Intel to kind of step down or step back from investing in Chinese companies that then work towards and support their military. So there's that fight between China and US going back and forth on who takes head control of the semiconductor field. So if I was to sit down with an interview to get a job at Intel, some questions I might ask is, as Intel is heavily investing and expanding their facilities in Arizona towards their US semiconductor manufacturing size, how does the local expansion create opportunities for new engineers like me? So basically, I'm asking is, how are these expansions in nearby local territories going to create new and higher positions for employees here? And another question I would probably ask is, as Intel recently begun its Intel Foundry service to manufacture chips for other companies, how is this strategic shift and expansion in the company creating more opportunities? So basically, as Intel expands and grows in the US territory and in Arizona, how is that going to affect not only the higher ups, but the employees in basically just expanding and, having a higher chain to climb? And this is our data and reference and what we use, and I hope you enjoyed.